looked toward college. Wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I knew I wanted to continue to play music, make music, to play trumpet, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do it as a career. So I majored in chemistry and remained active as a musician all the way through college, and played in a lot of different ensembles. And then when I graduated from college, I accepted a job in chemistry because that's what I had thought my career was going to be, but I realized pretty quickly that I missed playing music, and was provided with an opportunity to do some teaching, just part-time with a local high school, and I loved it. So, and I was kind of on the other side of the instrument, listening to other people making comments. At that point, I decided that if I wanted to do any kind of teaching, I better prepare myself. So I took some classes at Boston University on a part-time basis in music education, and I loved those. So I did that for a couple of years, and at the same time, I got called to go back to the college where I earned my bachelor's degree, and to do some teaching with the band there, and I liked that a lot too. So I thought I would make the leap, and leave the job that I was in chemistry. I'd been there for 3 years, and decided to go back to school full-time to get a master's degree in music education, and I did that at the New England Conservatory. And while I was at New England Conservatory for the two academic years back to back, I spent those 2 summers teaching with a local drum corps called the Boston Crusaders. And the combination of those 2 environments, the conservatory setting and then the drum corps setting, probably contributed to the greatest growth that I experienced as a teacher. And it prepared me for what I'm doing now, which is directing the marching band and symphonic band at Boston College, and continues to be a great passion for me. This is my entering my 20th year in those responsibilities at Boston College, and I still love teaching music. Music is difficult to assess according to standardized measures. So you can have standardized tests that relatively easily and accurately assess math and reading, some of the other science fields as well. The music is a little bit more subjective, and even when you go in for an analysis or evaluation, there's a judge who makes comments, and for people who haven't had that experience in music, they may not understand it. So you could go through a public school or a private school setting, and those who've had the experience in music understand its inherent value and the benefits, but those who have not may not understand those benefits. And because assessment is more difficult in music, I think there's a greater emphasis on subjects that people think might be more readily transferable to traditional job setting, even though there are lots of other benefits to making music, both individually and collaboratively, that are a little bit more difficult to quantify. You should have music education start as early as education starts. So there should be singing and activities based around rhythm, or just understanding different timbres of instruments as early as kindergarten, maybe even preschool. A lot of programs will start students at that age, or maybe a couple years later on recorder, and certainly by 4th grade, you could have students in most instrumental music programs, beginning instrumental music. Some string programs in some countries start even earlier, and students will perform with smaller size string instruments. But certain students certainly have the capacity to understand and communicate through music at a young age. And like any language, the younger you are when you start, the more likely you are to develop a proficiency. It's beneficial at every age. It's just the benefits change over time. So for students at the younger levels, it's a chance to be, well, it continues as well, but it's particularly at those young levels, a chance to be expressive and explore new sounds, new timbres. And sometimes you'll have, I remember when I was younger, probably close to kindergarten, you had a kind of a box with different percussion instruments. You hit something, it was a drum or a little xylophone, or maybe it was kind of a whistle or triangle, and you get the sense of you are in your environment manipulating something and creating a sound. And I think that's important for students to understand the space around them and also understand acoustic relationships. As they get a little older and they start singing, you have a greater awareness of working with other people, listening with other people, lining up the music you create with others. And then you can add as they get older, the instrumental music component, and that adds technical demand. So you're now creating music individually or collaboratively in a group, but you're learning to manipulate an instrument at a higher degree of proficiency with a greater sense of purpose. It's less exploratory, it's more structured. And then as you get older, you can listen to and understand, appreciate, and create more complex musics. With my experience at the college level, I see lots of benefits for the students. In addition to the music benefits, the intrinsic music benefits, and the technical and expressive benefits, there are social components to it, where students in a new setting, moving many of whom are away from home for the first time, living away from home, and establishing a sense of identity in a new place, having something that's been a part of their identity from their youth, the creation of music and the opportunity to share in that with other people develops a strong social cohesion and a sense of community and a sense of purpose. And that, at least initially, is a critical component of adjusting to higher education. And we know that students who are better adjusted and form those types of bonds do better academically, and they're more likely to persist to graduation. Beyond that, we conducted a study, and we looked at an array of potential benefits for engagement through music. So this is beyond the intrinsic musical benefits at the college level, but just the opportunity to engage with people who are different. And we conducted a survey of students. We looked at 20 different colleges and universities, and this included 1,882 marching band students, and we compared those survey results with non-band students at the same colleges and universities, same 20 colleges and universities, and we had 6,095 of the non-band students. And we looked at an array of types of behavior and patterns of engagement that the students exhibited. And what we found was, to a statistically significant degree, band students indicated they are, this is marching band in particular, students indicated that they are more likely to engage in serious conversations with people of different races, ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, as well as students with different political, religious, and ideological backgrounds. And that's important because it provides what we call in education a sense of dissonance. It's still in a music dissonance, and then it's a little bit, creates something that's unsettled and wants to move. It's anytime you encounter an idea or value or a belief system that's different than your own, it makes you sort of question your own position and trying to understand the others. And dissonance in education, just like in music, wants to resolve, wants to find a resolution, and we find that as well. So again, to a statistically significant degree, we find that the band student, the marching band students indicated they were more likely to try to imagine someone else's perspective, that they would reevaluate their own perspective or learn something new that changed their understanding of a topic or issue. And this is a significant precursor to growth. It's a critical component in growth, that sense of dissonance seeking a resolution. And one of the ways that we found that it manifests itself with these students in particular is that they exhibit an array of characteristics that are associated with personal social responsibility. And these are the fundamental primary objectives of education, higher education in particular, but essentially why we send our students to school and what we should expect in terms of outcomes. And this goes back to the point about why schools tend to cut music. I think a lot of administrators don't understand the benefits of music, but if they did understand the benefits of music participation, music would be the most important subject in the curriculum because it's more likely than the other subjects to lead to these characteristics. So specifically, they are, and again, these are the characteristics that students in the survey indicated that they were more likely to exhibit than non-band students to a statistically significant degree. That is the likelihood of developing a personal code of ethics and values, of understanding themselves, of understanding others at different racial, cultural, ethnic backgrounds, learning effectively on their own, contributing, voting in local and national elections, contributing to the welfare of their community, and being committed to solving complex real-world problems. So on these 7 independent measures, and together as a cluster, the students who participated in band were more likely to indicate these characteristics than the non-band students. And again, these are the most important objectives universally of a higher education. This is why we send students to higher education and what we expect of our graduates. And the band students indicated to a statistically significant degree that they're more likely to exhibit these characteristics than non-band students. And perhaps most importantly of all, we did what's called a regression analysis, where you take into account other variables, because just because we see the relationship between these band students and non-band students doesn't mean it's entirely attributable just to band. However, we can tease apart statistically some of the other potential contributors, like parent education, student, gender, ACT, SAT scores, so standardized test score, first generation status, race, ethnicity. We can in fact did take into account coexisting characteristics, like whether the student was involved in a learning community, whether they conducted research with faculty or conducted volunteer work. We also looked at whether the students were members of fraternities and sororities, or whether they were varsity athletes. And we looked at other coexisting characteristics like the academic major, so whatever the major students are majoring in, and 20 characteristics in all, including marching band participation. And of all of those characteristics, pre-college and coexisting characteristics, the strongest predictor of students indicating those personal social responsibility characteristics was participation in the marching band. So we know there's something special about that experience. A lot of it has to do with music. I think a lot of it in particular has to do with the marching band setting, marching band in particular with our ensemble. In many of these ensembles, students spend 200 hours together in a single semester, which is as many hours as a full course load. It's intense learning outside the classroom, where they're presented with opportunities to navigate space, achieve a sense of camaraderie and common understanding in the creation of music. We rely upon each other to achieve consensus. We can only be successful if all of the individual pieces work, and if individuals make sacrifices for the greater good. So in that sense, the conditions for participation in music make a lot of sense in understanding why we see these fundamental outcomes among the participants and the graduates of our programs. The influence of band and academics, there is a correlation again, that is that instrumental music band students tend to have higher grades in school and higher standardized test scores. There are other potential contributors to that. We can't say it's specifically band. There are some theories that say parent education is a contributor to that. That more educated parents are more likely to have their children involved in these instrumental music opportunities, and that may be one of the contributing factors. But there's definitely a relation. There's definitely a correlation. And again, within our own study, we found that even at the college level, students within the band, marching band, had statistically higher standardized test scores than the non-band students. And then, not in the study in particular, but within the program that I instruct with my own students, we looked at their academic work versus the non-band students at my institution, and we found that band students had a higher mean GPA than non-band students, and we also have more honors students and presidential scholars and students with individual departmental honors than the non-band students within the university. So there's definitely a correlation. We don't know that marching band or band in particular, instrumental music, causes the higher grades, higher academic performance, but we do know that students who participate in instrumental music, and in this case the marching band, do achieve greater results academically.